bitch!
What's blood for, if not for shedding?
Hang up the phone!
Who is this?
Who is that?
Dude Horrifying, the podcast to fill your horror needs.
All right, I'm Jake. This is Dude Horrifying, and today I have with me creator of Avalon Comic, Brandon. How are you doing today, Brandon?
Good. How are you today?
You know, I'm doing pretty all right.
Good.
Been looking forward to this. You reached out on Twitter, and I went and looked at the comic, and then you sent me the first issue, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I've really been looking forward to this.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad I did. I personally did as well.
When was the moment you realized that you wanted to bring this comic to life?
About a few years ago, Alan and I, which is the co-writer, we kind of got together with this long kind of idea that I've had for many years, and I kind of hit him with him, and we were kind of working out the kinks and all that stuff, and we thought to ourselves that this really could be a good, kind of idea. We just got to flesh everything out, and that's what we were working on a couple of years ago, and then we ended up diverting towards doing a comic book because I'm a visual person, and I like The Walking Dead as well, the comic book of it, aspect of it, and the show, of course. But that's kind of what pushed us into doing the comic book and getting this brought to life.
So you'd say that you're very much influenced by The Walking Dead?
Very much so. I don't know. You kind of have to be, especially when you're kind of doing something zombie genre like. It's a big juggernaut in the genre for sure.
So it's funny because the vibes that I really got from it were, it kind of reminded me more of the Night of the Living Dead, George Romero series.
Yeah.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it! You're ignorant.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Stop it! You're acting like a child.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that it takes place in Erie, Pennsylvania, which I thought was a curious setting for it. What made you decide to go to Erie?
A couple different reasons. The main reason was to be familiar with it, because we're from Erie. We live in Erie.
Okay.
We're from Erie and all that stuff. So, and to make the writing process a lot easier as well, we wanted to kind of stick with what we're familiar with as much as possible. And obviously, not all of it is real, but trying to keep not to think too far outside with stuff like that, the setting and all that stuff. So Erie, and also with Erie being the city it is, it's not a really big city. It's not a small city. It just has like that nice kind of size to it. And it has like that dark kind of like beat up kind of town feel to it, living here and all that stuff. And that's, and the location of it too, with the way, because we're going to manipulate weather a lot in this series going forward as well. We have a lot of rough winters up here, so it's just all that in kind of perspective. Erie was a perfect spot. We were actually looking for other cities as well, and I don't know why. Erie was perfect for what we wanted, and we were looking just to go outside of it, but we ended up obviously settling on Erie.
Which makes sense. I know I don't want to spoil anything when talking about the first issue, but it does start to snow whenever Officer Castle and Officer Miller both show up to the hotel or apartment. But so that's awesome. I think the fact that you have a city which you can alter the weather with a lot really makes it feel alive.
Alive, and there's a lot of different aspects or different kind of like things that we're going to touch on with this genre as well, that a lot of movies and shows don't kind of use. I mean, they use them in different pieces, but not to the extent that we're going to try and really focus on using with our project as well. And weather is going to be a big factor, kind of like a spoiler, non-spoiler kind of thing going forward with the story. Is weather's going to be something that the characters are going to have to deal with. It's pretty blatantly obvious with issue 1, like how you're reading, how it's starting to snow. So you can kind of guess that's, we're going to do something with it. It's not just going to snow just because we like the season. You know what I mean? It's which
Absolutely.
I do, but yeah, it's definitely story driven too.
And another question I have is, what is the name 1282 Avalon mean to you? Why 1282 and Avalon?
Okay, so 1282 is a production kind of thing that Alan and I are working on together. It's kind of our production company. It's nothing else yet. We're kind of just trying to brand that alongside with Avalon and other projects in the future as well. So it's kind of going to be our name going forward with other things. Avalon was kind of like a cool thing that when we were looking up names for it, it was kind of like longer process than I thought it was going to be, looking up for a name for a comic. We ended up picking Avalon for 3 different reasons that I really can't say much of because it'd be spoiling it. There's like 3 separate reasons on why we chose Avalon, and you will see that kind of told within the story that we're giving everybody issue to issue, and you'll see all that kind of flesh out. If you look up the word Avalon, obviously you're just going to get like the King Arthur story and all that stuff, so nothing like that is going to have major influence. It's not like King Arthur story, but there are aspects of every little thing that we've looked up with that you might be able to find out, you might not be able to find out, but there's 3 major reasons on why we picked that name.
So you're saying that it'll be riddled kind of throughout the story for you to find out yourself?
Yeah, there'll be an obvious thing that you will see later on in the couple issues down, and then there's going to be a couple other things that are kind of riddled through, kind of like how you mentioned, where you're going to have to actually pay attention and go, oh, I see now. It lines up with this, and this, and maybe later down the line when more story is fleshed out and I'm kind of giving the answers and nobody's grabbing it, maybe I'll explain it, but right now it's kind of like one of those things that we think we have a good way of explaining it through our story, and we think people are going to kind of hit the nail on the head, and it's going to make more sense as we tell it more and people see more going forward and stuff.
Yeah, I've noticed that you kind of hide details really well into the story. For example, Officer Castle and Officer Miller are part of Unit 12, which I assume is an Easter egg for 1282.
So that, and there's other Easter eggs that when people start to figure out, this is some stupid little things that I noticed that, like with any kind of creative kind of project that directors or writers do, it's a little part of themselves in the story, and that's something with our personal stuff that we put in the story for when people start doing their homework. And obviously the goal is when this starts to get bigger and all that stuff, people kind of do their homework on us, and they start figuring out little things, little Easter egg things in our life that we're putting into the story. It has another meaning to it as well.
I like that. I think that viewers that maybe haven't read it yet that are watching this, I think they'll grow to like the characters of Officer Castle, Officer Miller, and then the family storyline that you have going on over with Mason celebrating his birthday. Won't go too much into it, but I really like the stories. I think that the fact that they're 2 separate stories and yet you're able to connect them is really cool. I think it's something that a lot of independent comics aren't able to succeed at, but I think that you are off to an outstanding start. And the people that you're working with, the artists, the comics look great. The detail is in every picture. It's insane.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're very excited to have the artists that we have. Issue 1 was really good, and to speak on issue 1's art, and actually even further, I've said this in past interviews, is we're very, very lucky to have found the artist that we have. His name is Demetrius Nastos, and he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done. And he's actually kind of evolved his artwork in issue 2. And when issue 2 kind of gets to the prints and everybody starts to see it, actually you can kind of see it on our social media page. We're kind of pushing that art style. It's kind of a different art style. Same artist, different art style, but this has Avalon written all over it, and we're very happy with the new art style. He does a phenomenal job even with issue 1, but I think personally, and all of us as well, artists included, we think we definitely found this art that fits Avalon perfectly in the story that we want to tell, and how these characters look and how he articulated these characters and their expressions and all that stuff. He does a phenomenal job, and he makes this project come to life in my head. This whole thing has been in my head for years. It's finally come to life because of him.
And how does it feel seeing something that you've created come to life like this?
Oh, it's awesome. I couldn't be more happier with the project that, me and the people around me have kind of created and brought it to life, and having it in physical form and seeing it all kind of, all these like little images in my head that couldn't really make out, but you have it on paper, but when you see it in like a physical art form, it's amazing. It's awesome. And I'm so glad to have found, like the artists I have, and really the team that I have right around me that makes this possible and really pushes this into being the best project that it could be, and seeing it in physical form and hoping that it becomes something big and huge so we can make live action and stuff like that. It's an amazing feeling for sure.
So I saw a photo of you at Nick and Norman's in Sonoy, Georgia, dropping off a hard copy that you had signed. What was that like?
Oh, that was nerve-wracking a little bit. Obviously, they weren't there, but I remember
Right.
I was there and all that stuff. The intention was just like, you know what, hell, we're in we're in Sonoy, Georgia. Nick and Norman's restaurant, all that stuff. Obviously, they're big Walking Dead things, and I love the show and all that stuff. So, so I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna sign it for them. I spoke to the manager. Awesome experience there for anybody who's thinking about going there. Food's awesome, service is awesome, atmosphere is awesome. But I spoke to the manager. I asked her if she can, if this is a store copy. I was giving it to the store. I said if for whatever reason they can get it to Nick and Greg Nicotero's hands or Norman Reedus' hands, that'd be awesome. I'd really appreciate it. But it was just really kind of like a store copy. It was a cool experience.
Yeah, that seems like a really cool time.
Yeah,
I've been to Sonoy. I love Sonoy. They're tearing down the walls now, which is sad to see go, but it's going to open up Alexandria for people to see. But
yeah,
it's a cool experience.
It definitely was. I'm so glad to have seen the walls up before they took them down. We went, I think, a month before. I think it was about a month because they just, like a week or so ago, they took the walls down. So I'm so glad to have seen the walls up and all that stuff. But yeah, the whole town is awesome. I would love to live there if I could, but obviously that's way further than where I'm from and all that stuff. But awesome town. Love the town.
Being where you're from, have you driven down to the Pittsburgh area and seen the mall where they filmed Dawn of the Dead?
No, I have not been to the specific mall that they filmed the Dawn of the Dead, and I have not been there yet. But that is something that I do want to do, and just kind of take that and just kind of take it all in and look at it and see like little things. It's just cool seeing it, like kind of when we were in Sonoy, Georgia, and seeing where they filmed The Walking Dead and how they film certain parts. Same thing for that. I would love to go to the mall and just see these certain scenes that I always loved growing up and all that stuff, and watching them and just seeing them in physical form and all that stuff. I still have yet to do that. I would love to do that.
That would be super cool.
Yeah.
One of the questions I have going back to the art style. So whenever I first was introduced to Avalon, whenever I first started reaching out, in your bio you talk about it being not only black and white but also color. Seeing how that unfolded in issue 1, I thought was really cool. And I was wondering how much that are we going to see in future issues of Avalon?
As far as we're concerned, it's going to be in every single issue going forward. I think it's kind of like a good, unique kind of touch to our project. I haven't personally, I don't know if it's like a thing, but I haven't personally seen a comic do that, how we did it at the end there and all that stuff. So I think it was kind of like a weird way it even got brought up, because obviously black and white were a little are a little cheaper but I wanted the blood, the blood color and all that stuff, as people can see in our posts on social media and all that stuff. But then you get that hit at the end with the color and all that stuff. And it's something about it, because Alan and I were talking, we're like, that would be kind of like a cool idea, just kind of unique thing that I personally haven't seen and he hasn't either. So it was just a kind of like a unique touch to our project and kind of moving forward. I think it's going to be like our thing going forward.
Yeah, because I have not seen that in comics before. I mean, Walking Dead was purely black and white.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, whenever you do see color comics, they're going all in and giving color. You're not getting a mix. But I thought the use of the color versus the black and white was what made it really unique. Is whenever you started to realize why the colors are being shown.
Yeah, and what's very important too that happens is how the artist kind of portrays it. He does a phenomenal job using, especially going from issue 2, and he's working on issue 3 right now. But seeing issue 2 and issue 3, the way he uses the blacks, the whites, the grays, and on top of it the colors, the black and white kind of thing through the first chunk of the book and all that stuff. You're kind of seeing it, and you're like, it brings you in like a horroristic kind of like vibe, and it makes you almost, I mean, like it's like brings it like scarier, it makes it like more horror like, and then you get splashed with that color, and then it hits you with that unique, like, oh cool, you turn that page and then it's just like a splash of like how we see this whole comic in our head, like what colors we see people wearing and how this area looks in color and all that stuff. It's kind of a cool thing that developed over conversation and over kind of figuring out what we want this kind of to be going forward.
This is a personal question for me, not like a personal question that I'm asking you. I just personally want to know, because I scoured that comic. I read it 3 times. What is the dad's name with the mustache? He is
okay.
Awesome.
I will say you'll get his name in issue 2. His name is Mark. His name is Mark. Yes. His
That
name
mustache
Mark.
is killer.
Yeah,
I love it.
I love it too. I love it too. He, in my head, he needed a mustache. I love the mustache. But definitely love the mustache for sure.
Now, this is a question that you might not want to answer. It might come up in a later issue, but will they be called zombies?
That's something that I'm like 80-90% sure that I have the answer, and I'm leaning towards with the 80-90% like no. I don't think I'm going to do that, and I'm still kind of like guessing on it because it's like I don't think I'm going to, and I think it's hard to kind of explain where my head's at with it. I like the way The Walking Dead did it. Not that I want to copy The Walking Dead. It's not what I'm doing here. It's just like I like how it's almost that fear of like unknown. It's almost like the fear of like this doesn't exist. So they're not. Whatever. So it's just like but it's like an unknown factor of like what is this?
Right.
These characters are dealing with this craziness that you couldn't even imagine. What would happen, and here it is, and they have to deal with this horrific kind of like people coming after them and stuff. So I'm leaning towards the no. But there's still no reason with the story that I have written out so far for them to even call them zombies. So I'm going to say, for the sake of this conversation, for the sake of the question right now, I would say no.
So you're saying no, but you're also saying that there might be a chance. But you're mostly leaning towards the no part.
Yeah, mostly leaning towards no. They're not going to call them zombies. No.
I like that idea.
I think it's not. I don't want to use the word cheat, but for the lack of a better one, I'm going to say like cheat. I'm going to say that word just to be like, oh, these zombies walking around. I don't like that. I don't care for that. So that's why it's another reason. That's another small reason why I don't want to use those words. But yeah.
And I think with Walking Dead calling them walkers, with the video game The Last of Us calling them the infected, I think that really makes it where it's not so black and white as to making them zombies and adding kind of depth to them of not really understanding what they really are.
Right, exactly. And, literally, you said it best right there. I think it definitely does that. It gives it layers to these, again, to the characters. At this moment, they're still people. They don't know what's going on. They're just like anybody. We've had cases, if you watch the news, like in the last decade, there's been cases in other states that people like are on drugs and they are attacking people and biting people, and people talking about, okay, zombies are coming and all that stuff. But like things happen, crazy stuff happens. I mean, obviously this is an elevated crazy, but they don't know. It opens that door for the unknown even more. But instead of labeling them as zombies, it allows that to breathe, and like you said, there's more to it than that.
Like it. Another question I have is for Andy Castle. Is Andy kind of a reference towards Andrew Lincoln, who plays Rick Grimes?
We tell ourselves that we are the Walking Dead.
Maybe.
Were you expecting me to catch something like that?
Maybe, yeah. That'll be my answer. Maybe, yeah.
So with the zombie apocalypse being as big as it is and has been for the past couple decades, I mean, 1968 with Night of the Living Dead, it's kind of blown up since then. And then with The Walking Dead, it really brought in a whole new life of the zombie apocalypse. What do you plan on doing to transcend the genre, to separate your comic from some of this other material that we've seen?
So yeah, that's definitely a fair question, and that's something that we've kind of Alan and I have kind of come together a lot, very often, or we come together a lot about, and it's something that needs to happen, and that I think needs to happen personally, where there's so many things like it. There's so many zombie genre movies and shows or comics or books out there. So what's different about this one? And that's a very important question to ask. With ours and what we're going to be focusing on that we can kind of give right now, there's more to it, but what I can give to people right now and how I've been selling it was, I've watched movies my whole life. I've been in love with the genre my whole life, and every time I watch any kind of zombie movie or kind of horrific vampire movie, a post-apocalyptic, there's always feels like in each project there's something small missing. So as I watch those, I grabbed all those things. I'm like, okay, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to grab all those things and make my own. And a lot of those things are like how you saw with Mason in the part. There's mental illness that he's playing with, you know, a lot of anxiety that he's dealing with, and medications, pre-existing injuries, you know, real life problems, real life issues, like trying to make these characters very, very real in such a cruel world, and pre-problems, and that's something. It's kind of hard to explain because a lot of this gets fleshed out over time. But in the beginning, you're going to see these problems with these characters that are happening before this apocalypse even happens. So that they're real problems that people deal with day to day, and they can't ignore it now because this kind of apocalypse is hitting them. So watching all that happen, and then there's stuff that's going to be happening later on that we're really focusing on to separate our project from other projects that have done it, that I really can't say too much about because it's part of the plot. It's part of the whole like arc, you know, later on. But those big things in the beginning are things that we're really focusing on to kind of move us away from them a little bit, you know, and kind of give that new touch and that real touch, and have anybody who picks it up kind of relate to a certain character that can, like because everybody deals with some sort of anxiety, so they can deal with that and understand it, and different aspects of different characters and how they deal with certain things.
Yeah, we'll say the character development in just the first issue is something that you don't get to see often. You don't get to see people going to convenience stores and getting food and really showing that side of a character. So I thought that was really enjoyable.
Yeah, and that's like that little thing that you even mentioned there. Like it just a real, you know, it's real conversation. Those are real friends. You could, when you're reading it, you could just, okay, you could tell these guys are friends. You know, they're partners, they're friends. They have a real conversation. The same thing with the family, and kind of a different tone where it's like Mason has problems, and you can tell there's problems, and they're eating at him. You know, the family almost feels like they don't know what to do with him, and you know how they can handle it. And how it's explained how he has a therapist and all that stuff. So it's just like, and having the parents kind of like, I don't know, kind of feeling, and then all that stuff. So it's just real. You know, it's just, we're trying to get a very real person, real feelings, real thoughts, and all that stuff portrayed into our book right now, especially in the beginning.
One thing I didn't expect whenever reading this was I didn't expect to get so hungry for a meatball slider.
Yeah, I love meatball sliders. I'm a big fan of them.
Is that a big thing up in Pennsylvania?
I don't know if it's a big thing in Pennsylvania. The funny thing is there's like a small funny story with it, and I don't know how to explain it. So my wife's sister one day came in to, I can't remember what it was. It was like a party or something. We were having like a party or something. So, and she made meatball sliders, and it was funny because the way she came in, and she's like, I have meatball sliders. And it's like funny, and that's literally how we have it. Like if you read it, like you see how
right.
like Miller said it and all that stuff. So it's just like we brought that real kind of thing, and it was like hilarious at the time, and we all loved it. And Alan and I were both there, so that's why we're like, yeah, we're definitely putting that in there, you know. But meatball sliders, they were very good. I don't know if it's like a big thing in PA or Erie or whatever, but definitely a thing. But they're good for sure. They're good.
Did they make you shit?
Yes. Alan and I both. Yes. So
I was laughing at that. I couldn't help but think about going to a convenience store and getting like those little tornadoes that they have there, and then a couple hours later just shit in my brain.
Yeah. It just that's the realness, because the funny thing with all that too is bringing the real life into it. That was really a real conversation. Obviously, it's fleshed out a little bit more and made more sense in context with the story, but like those are real conversations, the real words that we said, and it's just like bringing it into our story. That's the realness that we're trying to like bring us and realness into our Avalon.
And I think you had a really good payoff there at the end, making it into kind of a punchline. I thought that was excellently done.
Yeah.
How much farther out do you have planned? Like, where do you plan to go from here?
So the idea is just to go on until I run out of ideas or I screw it up. So I have a general ending. I know how I kind of want to end it. And the way I'm thinking about it now is like, so I have 6 issues written out, done. I'm working on, I have the arc of issue 2, or sorry, not issue 2, volume 2, and I'm working on like the details of those issues. I have a general arc for issue 3, and a general arc for issue 4. Or sorry, I keep saying issues. Volume 3 and volume 4, up to 4 volumes, and we're going to be doing 6 issues of volume. So I have a good understanding of where I'm bringing this series for a good amount of time. And what I found out doing the first 6 issues was, for example, the first draft that we did for issue 1 sucked. It was I couldn't believe we were going to publish it. We were like, we paid for an artist back then and all that stuff. I was like, wow. And then we kind of like looked at it and we're like, wow, this is not done. So we fleshed that out into probably 3-4 issues in the first volume. And going in with that mentality, with those 4 arcs that I have in my head, those can get fleshed out even further. You know, I can do probably so much more when I get to those arcs as individual arcs and, you know, working on the details. So it's going to go on until I kind of figure out that, okay, now I feel like I see the end coming up.
Are you excited to see people's reactions as these start to come out too?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm very, very excited with what we got in the first 6 issues. These first 6 issues are very good. I cannot wait to see them done with our artwork. Issue 2 is very exciting. Issue 3 is very exciting. Like, it's just like, and this is just, and obviously I'm speaking as the creator. I am the creator, so it's like hearing me saying, you're like, oh yeah, sure. But like, I'm like looking at it in a fan of like a zombie kind of genre mentality. I'm like, I'm very excited with what is going on with Avalon going forward in these next 6 issues and the arcs that I have planned up. But just like I was saying a little bit earlier too, is like there's a little bunch of little pieces in each movie that I felt was missing. So I grabbed those little things, wrote them down, and they're going to be applied into our story here, and we're really gonna make those come to life and that's what I'm really excited for. I think if you liked issue 1, just be prepared for each issue getting better and better and better. And that's going to happen naturally just because the story is going to get, you know, you're going to get more context. My writing is going to get better. The art is going to get better. Everything's just going to get better. Everything's going to grow. So I'm very excited for what's to come.
When writing out future issues, did you surprise yourself at all?
Oh, yeah. Especially when because Alan and I don't know where I put it, but we saved that first draft of issue 1, and it is horrible. I cannot tell you how horrible it is. And to see how we were going to publish that and kind of get an artist and get that in a physical form, and to see where we've come with our issue 1 now, phenomenal. And we did it. We fixed that up very good, and moving forward and all that stuff. It just seems like it just keeps getting better. And as we both understand these kind of characters and understand the world even more, it just gets better and better, and everything starts to make more and more sense. And it just gets a little bit easier each time I start writing and we get together and we figure it all out together.
That's awesome. So with your goals and formulating your goals and your plans, going from issue to issue, how much growth do you want to see between each issue as you go?
Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean how much growth? Like, explain what you mean with that. Like, how much growth?
So obviously this is a new podcast. So for my first episode, I was going to be happy with 5 people. I ended up getting 20 listeners, which blew my expectations out of the water. When I post this, because I've been going crazy on social media, and social media, I'll use social media for an example. I have been on social media now for 2 weeks. My goal for my first week was 200 followers. I ended up with 420. So I shifted my goals for week 2 to get 800 followers. Right now, I'm currently at 923. So it's kind of, how many viewers or readers do you want for your goals? Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess that can kind of make sense with what you're saying. I don't know about like reader wise. I'm not sure like sale wise. Like our goals are really trying to get this story out. We understand it's going to be kind of a slower process. You know, the indie world is kind of like there's a lot going on in the independent comic world. So you got to really find that marketing strategy to kind of separate you from others, especially in a zombie genre thing. I really got to display or find ways to display our stuff here and look what we got. And I think what's going to do that is more issues coming out. So a goal of mine is obviously to get issue 2 out and to get issue 3, 4, and 5, and 6 out in a timely fashion. A small goal is to get 4 issues out next year, every quarter. And another goal to kind of correspond with that would be how much of a radius can I get around Erie, Pennsylvania? Because I got Cleveland, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh around me. Those are big areas that we're going to be attacking in physical, like we're going to be going there. Big areas that I want to attend. I want to do events. I want to sell in those comic stores. Those are basically my goals. I want to just get it out to more and more eyes as time goes on. I'm not sure all the viewers and what comes into that and all that stuff, but those are like little small goals that we're kind of pushing towards and really trying to get stuff out in a timely fashion and expanding our radius a lot next year. And I think getting our story out will do the marketing for itself and show people that this is a different kind of story. When you see how these characters develop, how these characters talk, how this world is, and all that stuff, and all the little stuff behind it, you're going to see it's different. And I think that'll just do it for itself. That's what in my head is.
So going to events like coming up in Pittsburgh is the Steel City Convention, doing things like that. Is that how you plan on kind of getting it locally distributed and then kind of hoping it grows from there?
Yeah, exactly. I think hitting those big 3 cities around us next year, because we've been I think we're selling in 5 comic stores right now, but really attacking the local area and really kind of branching out in like the New York, Ohio area as well. I even went down about halfway to Pittsburgh, and like kind of like the Grove City area. So I've been kind of expanding my radius as time goes on, and as we're kind of getting this stuff out there and really showing our face more and more, we're really trying to get our name, our brand out there as much as possible. So that would be a big goal of ours, is to get into the SteelCon next year and stuff like that, and in Cleveland and Buffalo and all that going forward.
I think those are great goals to have. I think that's the best way. Doing groundwork is the best way to get people to tune in or to read your comic, is because then they have that personal interaction with you, and that means just so much.
Yeah, I agree. I think because I haven't been like really involved in the comic community until I kind of really opened this up, and that's one thing that I think I've figured out over the time period is really, because it's an awesome community. I love the community. I wish I was in the community a lot longer than I was, and having that history in the community. But everybody I meet is awesome, and I think that's what they want too. I think they want that personal connection with the creator and talking to that person and knowing how that person is, and then reading the product, and they're like, okay, yeah, I like this product, and then I also met the guy and all that stuff. I think those are all little cool things that I would enjoy as a fan, finding somebody at some random comic book store that's doing a sign and having a conversation, buying the comic and enjoying it. Like those are little things that I would like. So I would like to think other people think the same somewhat, but yeah.
Yeah, I have buddies that have been alive a lot longer than me that have met people like Robert Kirkman whenever he was just getting started. They've said that meeting them early on was just the coolest thing, and that it changed their opinion of them and wanted to make them support them even more, which I thought was super cool insight onto stuff like that.
Yeah, that is definitely something that I hope that we can kind of accomplish. It kind of like how you said there, is just really have those small interactions and really have the kind of impact on people. Hopefully, if this does get a big and all that stuff, and I believe it will with the story that we're telling, that it has that kind of same feeling that people have when they met Robert Kirkman or anybody like that in the past before they even blew up. That's kind of like what I'm looking for, and I hope to meet people and always have those interactions with people. That is one thing I really enjoy about this so far, is going out to the community and meeting everybody in the community and talking to people about comics and talking to people about their, how comics even change their lives. That was a big thing that I like talking about with people as well. It's such a cool, it's a bunch of cool stories you hear from a bunch of people, and I really enjoy that part of this whole thing.
Absolutely. That's kind of the whole purpose of this podcast, was I wanted to bridge the gap between horror fans and horror creators like yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an important part of it, and it's so cool to see someone like you embracing that.
Yes, yeah, no, I agree with that. It's a cool thing of what you're even doing. Even when I saw your Twitter account. I thought it was awesome, and the fact that you said you started this up a couple of weeks ago is even more awesome. You know, it's just like it's starting to kind of come into fruition for you. It's all just starting to pile on and then move forward and all that stuff.
It's a little deceiving saying it started officially 2 weeks ago. This has probably been in the works for over a year and a half now. So it was kind of an idea that I was going to wait till everything fell into place, and then I kind of got tired of waiting and brought it to life 2 weeks ago, and here we are now.
No, yeah, I kind of had a similar thing even with Avalon. It was almost like we were working on it, changing things. I was like, I just need to see this in physical form. I need it, and then after I got the physical form, I was like, this is awesome. I need to just sell it. I want to get this to people. I want to be public with it and all that. The same thing that your head's at with it all. It's just eagerness and it's just a go-getter. I just want to go get it. I want to make this happen. I want people to see this thing that I've been working on with a bunch of other people as well. And it's exciting to me and to the team around me as well to really get this in people's hands.
So for small independent horror creators like yourself, obviously you have to devote time to work. What's it like balancing work life and working on Avalon?
It's actually, it can get quite difficult at times, because obviously you need to devote time to, a full-time job. There's normal bills, there's normal things you got to take care of, normal things you got to pay for, especially when you have like a family and all that stuff as well. You have to devote time to your family and all that stuff as well. So finding time for this can get difficult at times. It's just important, I think, for me, and it's still something that I'm learning. So it's still kind of like iffy, but it's still something that I'm working on, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, is trying to find the best way to formulate time for this and make this all happen. It's just, I guess it's just to just do it, because at the end of the day, when you're tired, at the end of the day, when you just want to lay there and watch a YouTube video or something or watch a movie, sometimes you got to push that to the way and just go, screw it. I need to get back into doing this comic or whatever the project may be for that person or you or whatever. It's just, screw it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to dedicate an hour or 2 hours, whatever it is, 30 minutes to my comic, and then figure something out. It can get very hard at times, but when you just love something so much, I guess you just make time for it,
Yeah.
Especially with this, and especially as this thing comes more and more to life, it's been a little easier to kind of devote time to it, because it's like I feel a desire. I need to do this. I need to get this out there. But it could be tough. It's just something that for anybody to do anything like this, or anything like you're doing, anything like I'm doing, or anything at all, any kind of creative thing at all, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be something where it's like, oh, I've had this idea, I'm just going to write it down and then make this book or whatever it is. You have to devote time. You have to devote money, hard working hours to it and all that stuff. So it's just do it. And that's my kind of mentality with it. It's just, I need to just push through the suck and get it done.
So whenever you first came up with the idea of Avalon, did you pitch it to your wife, this idea that you had, to see what she thought of it?
So I can't remember. So when I originally had the idea, it was way back when I was like in high school. It was like 8 years ago. So I wrote down a bunch of like random ideas, like I said, when I was watching this stuff growing up, and I didn't know how to like do anything with it, so I kind of just put it in a folder and left it at that. And then, like I've said before too, is like a couple years down the line, I ended up meeting Alan, and he has a creative mindset as well. So we kind of collaborated on this idea. I told him about this idea that I've had way back then, and he liked it. So then, like I said earlier in the interview too, it's like we really started figuring out more about Avalon together, and we really did, and it really started snowballing and all that stuff. And at that point, yeah, I kind of would tell my wife these kind of things too. I didn't want to like give her details yet, because I wanted her to see the finished product. I didn't want her to see like little pieces and go, oh, okay, that's cool. I wanted her to see it outright, and I won't even let her read issue 2 yet. I want her to read it in physical form. I want her to read it as like a fan, as a fan would, as anybody would. But just like I didn't want her seeing like the little stupid things that you got to do to get this project in a physical form. I just want to see her read it and see what she thinks about it in that way. But it's definitely, yeah. I guess to answer your question, it was just that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just I want her to read it as a fan. Yeah.
I like that. I mean, it gives you the most pure response that someone could give you. Not
Yeah.
having them along for the creative process and then having them see the final product, you're really getting how they feel about it with them experiencing it for the first time.
Yeah, and there's a couple other family members of mine who are horror fans as well, and I kind of do the same thing with them. Like my aunt, for instance, she's a big horror person, and there's a couple things that I've asked her opinion on during the creation process way back then, but now it's like I just give her the finished product. I ask her what she thinks. She's very good at critiquing work as well. I don't want them holding punches. I just want them to hit me for what it is. Because I want to learn, I want to grow. I don't want to be like sugar coated and be like, and then waste my money and time and my everything on this project and it sucked. I want people to kind of give me the brutal truth and then be like, hey, this would do better if you did blah 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 and all that stuff. But I don't want any hold punches. I want to get hit in the head with a brick if I need to. Just tell me the truth.
Do you ever have people come up to you asking for spoilers? Have you had that happen yet?
Yeah, I mean, just a couple people from work but like, yeah, I just tell them the obvious. It's not enough to be like a real big thing yet. It's just like, no, you got to get the next con. Like, you gotta wait. It's just real simple.
Absolutely. All right, something we haven't talked about yet is the Kickstarter that you have for issue 2. Is there anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, just with the Kickstarter we got going on right now, it's for issue 1 and 2. If you're just hearing about it now, we do have a catch-up tier, so don't be like, oh no, it's just for issue 2. There's a lot of issue 2 stuff in that. If you are, like I said, if you are just hearing it now, grab yourself an issue 1 and 2 catch-up tier. It's $15 for both of them. So there's only 8 days left right now. So we'll have to just, I don't know, when do you plan on releasing this?
Friday.
This Friday coming up?
Yeah.
How many days will it be from then?
So that'll
6
be
days.
6 days.
Okay, so yeah, there's only six days left in this Kickstarter. So if you're just hearing about it now, kind of jump on it. We have less than $200 left to kind of fund it completely, and then all that stuff. There's a bunch of stuff. There's exclusive stuff like the cover B we have in the update section. It's kind of with like Andy, and there's like a rip in it. You can only buy that on the Kickstarter and at live events. So if anybody sees that and you do want to get it and you're not anywhere by Pennsylvania, I suggest you get that one and grab yourself a copy now, because you're only going to be able to get that, like I said, on the Kickstarter and at live events. There's a bunch of other tiers there as well, like signature copies, exclusive copies. There's a poster as well that have in the update section. It's with the 3 brothers and the title of Avalon on it as well. Very, very cool stuff, I think, and we're very excited for it. We can't wait to get this Kickstarter funded and really move forward and kind of get all this stuff, promotion, printing, and getting our product out there as much as possible.
That's awesome. I know that Kickstarter is such a big part of helping fund horror creators, so it's really cool to see you utilizing this. And I think you're doing it in the absolute right way to utilize it.
Yeah, I think so too. It is something that we've had to learn over the last couple of months. The first time I heard about it was earlier this year when we did the issue 1 Kickstarter, which we weren't really public for anyways. It was more like family and friends marketed towards them. But we're public with issue 2 obviously now, so it's really starting. We're really just asking for the money so we can print off our issue and really promote our brand as much as possible as well. And it allows us to go to events like we are actually going to our Erie Comic Con in September this year. And Erie also has an Erie Horror Fest, and we're also going to be going to that in October as well. So it allows us to go to those things and kind of show face to those kind of events and really display our project there.
So you really have everything road mapped out, so that way you can really make this a complete success.
Yes, yep. As much as we can, as much as I can think of. But yeah, there's so much more we could do. But I just do the best we can. We're trying to get this out there as much as possible.
That is awesome. Is there anything else that you want to put out there before we get going?
Basically, that you could just see us on. You can find us anywhere really. I wanted to say that you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Redbubble as well, and if you find us anywhere, like on any social media platform, just hit our link tree. We have a link tree on every bio on our social media pages. You'll find us everywhere that way.
Love to hear it.
I want to give a big thank you to Brandon for coming on. It's important that we as a horror community support these small independent creators as they go on their endeavor within the horror genre, because the horror world is built on small independent creators. And it was great talking with him about Avalon, what he's got coming for the future. I think there's a lot there. Please, please, please go follow him on Instagram, go follow him on Twitter, go support him on Patreon, support the Kickstarter. There are great things in store for the Avalon brand. I also want to say a big thank you to everyone that's liked, commented, subscribed. Twitter, 2 tweets have reached over 200,000 people. That is insane. 200,000 people saw 2 tweets that I've tweeted this week. The reach has been crazy, and the people that I've reached out to have been awesome, and the responses have been great to see. Hearing other people's opinions about what they think about, for example, The Final Girl or remakes, has just been, it's been nice. It's been nice to hear the horror community open up about what they care about. Thank you all so much for the love. Please, if you haven't already, follow me on Instagram at Dude Horrifying. Follow me on Twitter at Dude Horrifying. If you're listening on any of the podcasts or YouTube, I'm Dude Horrifying everywhere. And thank you all so much. For next week's episode, I got a fun one. I'm going to be reviewing Robert Bloch's 1959 novel Psycho and its film adaptation by Alfred Hitchcock. I'm going to be doing a fun comparison and talking about the things that I liked between both the novel and the movie. I'll also be comparing it to its source material that it's loosely based off of, the story of Ed Gein. Till then, stay tuned, and as always, stay horrifying, my dudes.